All right. So let's talk about Jeremy Randall. For you guys that don't know, he is the senior systems designer for STO. He had posted the other day that he was going to be leaving the STO team. I believe he's been on the STO team for a better part of a decade. TriZander did a full video covering this. So if you want a little bit more detail, it's mostly kind of speculation. Basically, he just goes on to say he's had a great time. The people that are in his department can handle everything fine, and that he is leaving the STO team and moving over to a different team at Cryptic. So the reason I bring this up is I think this guy's probably had the most influence over the game to a certain degree for the longest amount of time. So I'm interested to see if there's going to be any kind of radical changes. I think that that's probably not going to happen. And so here's my speculation, and for me it's a little bit worrisome. So, you know, we constantly will hear from the devs that they can't do this or they can't do that because they just don't have the manpower or people power. And I understand that coming from someone like Kale. You know, he just works, delivers the messaging, those kinds of things. And most of these people, that's what they do. They don't have control over that. But the lack of manpower is a decision that is made by Cryptic. And so there's a choice that they don't want to have more manpower, meaning they don't want to make any kind of radical changes or expansions or things like that, which is a part of why we see a couple missions a year. We're not seeing, you know, new battle zones. We're not seeing complete arcs being released. It seems like most of the budgets are going into voice actors and things like that. And so for me, this is a little bit concerning because I think this is going to is going to reduce the capability for some of those things that we would like to see even more. There hasn't been any kind of official statement from Cryptic Studios. I was going to reach out to Kale and see if he could give me any more insight. I'm guessing that's probably going to be a negative, that I won't get that from them. But I'm still going to ask just to see, so we can do some follow-up on talking about what the potential implications are for this. But it also makes me wonder, because STO and Neverwinter, I think STO has overtaken it, is the is the largest game that Cryptic Studios has. So they're obviously working on something else in the background, and I really wonder what that is. He talks about in the post that he can't talk about what he's going to do at Cryptic Studios or any of that, but hopefully sometime in the future, soon, he can start hyping whatever it is. Part of me, and this is just speculation, but I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think there's a possibility of STO 2.0, or do you think there's a possibility of just a complete revamp that the team's working on? The current team is maintaining the game, and there's another team, working on a complete overhaul, or do you think they're just working on something totally different? Any of those things are possible. The Star Trek IP that they have is huge. It's probably the most valuable thing that Cryptic Studios has going for it. So part of me says that, why wouldn't they, use that to leverage something new and updated? I mean, the game is 12 years old, and again, I'm just, speculating on this, but I wonder what is going on in the back end, or are they just, completely working on something different and unrelated? I gotta believe that one of the main reasons that Gearbox bought New World and Cryptic Studios is for that Star Trek licensing, to be able to make games and those kinds of things. Could be an engine revamp, could be. Excuse me. They are working on something different. There is no reason not to announce. Okay, they're making STO 2.0. If they were making a STO 2.0, they would not be telling anybody, because they're currently selling items for the current STO. So unless it was going to integrate and be like some large update, I could see them maybe leaking some stuff on that as it got closer. But because how does that look? I mean, I haven't played a lot of MMOs. STO is really my first and main one I've ever played. Since playing that, I have, played Elder Scrolls and some other ones. But what does it look like when, a game starts to wind down? I mean, I'm familiar with maintenance mode. Do they sell stuff up to the last moment and then at least do maintenance mode for, 2 years after that? Because, I mean, that'd be pretty crappy if you, bought a MUDs bundle and the game shut down, a month later. I highly doubt that would be the case. I mean, STO is still very profitable, so I don't think that is a concern. I don't think STO's shutting down tomorrow or anytime real soon. So, and again, this is all just speculation, but I wonder what does that actually look like? I mean, I would assume that when something goes on to maintenance mode, they stop selling things, but then how do they maintain maintenance mode? I don't know what that looks like, and I don't know that there is a pretty way for that to happen. And again, I don't think that that's happening anytime soon. STO is profitable, but there just doesn't seem to be a whole bunch of interest in really expanding the game out, any farther than kind of where it is. I mean, there is stuff that they're adding, here and there. They're expanding the fleets out. They are doing a lot of visual updates. So we could just be really, really off base on that speculation. But with him leaving, I mean, that does prompt those those questions. So I'd like to get a little bit more info. Hopefully he can start tweeting about what he is doing just to give us a little more insight, or if we can get some feedback from the community manager Kale, or some sort of statements on that. But the team is already fairly small, so I think they'll continue. I mean, like, Thomas is putting a lot of time into updating ships, and and they're not even like I don't want to say they're not for sale ships, because a lot of them are in the C-store, but it's not even like they're just picking the most popular and trying to just, update just the stuff so they can sell more of it. I mean, they're going back and updating. I mean, they're updating skins on free ships that you get when you start and stuff. So that is encouraging, seeing them doing that kind of thing. I just think this announcement here from Jeremy Borticus, that someone at, from his position that's been there a long time is now leaving to go somewhere else. So I'd really like to know, is there going to be a new lead designer, or is it just, pulling someone that's currently on the team, making them that? Are they bringing in someone new? What's happening with it? I'd really like to know. Darth, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I just, and I hate to use the term if I'm being honest, because I beat people all the time up for saying that. You should always be honest. But, I think my gut says that you're right there. I mean, with the Odyssey being featured and those kinds of things, I did a sit down with TriZander a while back, a little podcast kind of thing, and I think STO has at least 5 plus more years. I mean, unless they're just working on something new that either integrates or something like that. Because there's just so much content they have from the game that's now in shows and different things like that, like you said. So I agree. I mean, with all of that stuff, I don't even see a STO 2.0. I know Sarcasm Detector, I think he's leaning towards STO 2.0, but I just don't think we're there yet. I think they got too much going on here, and it's profitable. It does well. People really, really love it, obviously. If you played it for a long, long time, I think we find ourselves in a different place because we played it so much. We played through all the content, and there's not any kind of a established built-in end game that it's easy for us to kind of criticize. But I mean, remember back when you first started playing, be it a couple months ago, a couple years ago, I mean, it was just, it's gigantic. There's so many systems, there's so much stuff to do, and so for, people that are newer, have only played a year or two, I mean, it's just, there's still so much, so I think that, people like, myself that have played for a long time, and many of you guys that have played forever, we know all the basics, we know all the advanced stuff, we know all the mechanics, we know everything. We're constantly looking for, okay, well, what are they going to do next to upgrade it and do this and that? And I think the bottom line is that there's not going to be anything huge like that's going to be radically changed, because this game is for, people to come and have that Star Trek experience. The game bleeds a lot of long-term players, but it also picks up more than enough new-term players in order to fill that gap. And you can see that in, the login numbers and things like that over the past half decade. The overall population, congruent logins, things like that have really been steady for quite a long time. I mean, ever since there was a huge boost when it went free to play, but that was just a blip. And since then, it's just been just level. It stayed just strong. And I've said this a million times. I think it's, I think the model is just maintain the status quo, continue to update, the visuals and, some of the mechanics, add in little things here and there. But I think that's probably what we're looking at seeing. Multiple devs have been trained in the software for making ships in the past few years. Yeah, I'm not here beating them up either, Stargate. I mean, and I'm not saying they don't do anything or anything like that. I mean, don't take it the wrong way. The stuff that Thomas and his team and those guys are doing, it's amazing. And like I said, they're going back and revamping things that don't even have a money, sign on it. Some of the starter ships and things like that. So I think those are all good, encouraging things, for the health of the game and long term. And I mean, STO's already been out 12 years, and I think it'll be going strong still at least another 3 to 5 years, easily, without them even doing anything majorly different other than what they're currently doing now. Narnia, why spend big money on voice actors and pushing the... I agree with that 100%. I'm not a huge fan of the Terran Empire thing, personally. I don't hate it or anything, so it's kind of fine. But I would rather them not have any famous voice actors and make like 4 times the amount of content, if it were up to me. Give me mission rewards that have set bonuses, all those kinds of things. I would play the crap out of that stuff on multiple tunes. I mean, I haven't played most of the newest content. I'm just not interested. I need a reason to do that. The stories and the voice acting is not enough to make me play it. Now, if you dropped in good gear, rewards for doing that, you better believe I'll be playing that probably multiple times, because I'll need sets and on multiple tunes, and on my free-to-play, I'd play the crap out of it. But you have to, and it doesn't matter what game it is. Like, I've been playing a lot of New World. There's some things I'll do that I don't really want to for, the XP and stuff, but otherwise I'm only running quests and dungeons for the gear that it drops. If it didn't drop gear, I wouldn't run it, so you have to incentivize us a little bit above and beyond. And I think that's where the breakdown for the end game part of it starts to happen, right? Is that, number one, there's not an established end game. If they had, mandatory roles and things for some of the harder content, I think that would help. But you have to also add in a reason to do it, apart from just, playing with your friends and stuff. A lot of people play solo and, and those kinds of things. So if they had more of, rewards for doing these things, like, Victory is Life, you had the Morphogenics set, you had a bunch of other stuff that was really, really good. The mining laser, you had an on-ground, I can't remember the guy's name's hologram guy that beams in or something, and you can access the exchange. Now, we did get the Torment engine and some of that, and that's pretty decent, but it's been pretty darn light when you go back and look at, the episodes and stuff that have been added to the game over the last couple of years compared to Victory is Life and the stuff that came in before that. I just ran the new TFO for the first time last night with TriZander and Nick, and I didn't even want to. Nick was just pulling us into stuff, and it's not half bad. Don't get me wrong; it's good, but the map and everything, it looks amazing. It looks really, really good. But again, there's just, I don't need marks, so I generally aren't running TFOs for marks unless it's on a newer tune or something like that I'm doing. Hicks, how you doing? 07s? That'd be cool to see some lower deck stuff, Darth. I don't know how they would do it, but I mean, they did a really good job with the Cerritos, putting it in game, even though it's a cartoon ship. That would be cool if they did some, satirical TFO or missions that were good, satirical to kind of meet the, the whole vibe of lower decks. Yeah, but I definitely would like to play full arcs, with good writing, and good rewards. I mean, even if you put something out that just has amazing writing, amazing visuals, if there's not an incentive at the end of those missions and those arcs for me to replay them for sets and different things like that, I'm not ever going to play them again. Yeah, give me rewards. If I could pick anything, there's a million things, especially, if you're an in-gamer, there's a million things we could, speculate and go on about that we would like to see or have added to the game. I think just the one major thing that they could do is just continue to add in good rewards for the missions. Sets, good gear, ground space, whatever it is. Make it useful. Spend some time on that. And just that by itself would be huge. I mean, because I log in a lot of times, and if, I do my endeavors, but if I don't have, anyone to play with, or I'm just not, sometimes I don't want to play with people too. I don't want to just run ISE or whatever it may be. But if they were adding in, as they add these missions in, adding in good gear, I'd have plenty of stuff to be doing in game. And the more you're in game, the more you spend money. I think sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect between adding things in the game and them looking at whether or not it monetizes. We were talking about this last night, like drops, for instance. I don't know if you guys are aware, but you can connect your Cryptic account to Twitch. They have that functionality. They did drops for Neverwinter once, and I don't know what how that went or whatever it was, but we never saw that again. And I don't know if a part of it is, well, how do we make money off that? My answer to that is that most of the time, if I'm watching a stream, I'll end up logging into the game and playing, and the more people that log in, the more people potentially spend money, or at least fill up the server. So the people that, are spending money, feel like the environment's, big. I mean, like New World, before the updates, I logged into a server I was on and it was like dead. I logged right out, because there was nobody around. So, I mean, there's an indirect connection, in terms of monetary value by having people in game and driving drops and having drops and different things like that drive people to log in more. So what Darth's saying here on Twitch is if they did a STO 2.0, we're assuming that it's going to be just an upgrade to the game and you could transfer everything over. And you're saying that Dragon Ball Z did this where you could transfer your inventory, all your stuff. That, I think, would be best case scenario. I think that's probably not going to be the case, though, because the amount of work in making sure you can transfer everything over, you would have to recreate all the same stuff in the new game. And, I mean, just the undertaking involved with that, and especially, knowing the size overall of Cryptic Studios and stuff, I don't see it happening. I mean, don't get me wrong, that would be like best case scenario for sure. But I just don't see them doing that. So anyways, there's really not a lot here other than the fact that he's leaving. And so I just wanted to kind of speculate with you guys about that, what the potential implications are. My gut tells me we probably won't see any difference whatsoever in the near future. Hopefully whoever, TriZander had mentioned this, but Borticus had mentioned on a stream a while back, I forgot what they were doing and talking about, but he made a comment asking why mines are so good with, kinetic builds. And that statement is is problematic because, I mean, that's just a basic, mechanic of the game. Mines scale off kinetic damage. And so maybe he just wasn't thinking at that time, but if he really didn't know that, so if they bring somebody in that position that maybe understands the mechanics of how the game, works in reality, because these guys design the game, right? They understand the software, they understand how things work, on that back end level, but that's a lot different than, when you're actually playing it. It's kind of like, I don't know if anyone's ever worked construction, but you'll be looking at plans and the engineers draw things up and you're just like, what are these guys thinking? Like, that looks fine on paper, but that's not exactly how things are going to end up working out in real life, right? So I think there's a similar thing to that when you're looking at software development and then actually using a game and playing it. All right, so that'll wrap it up for Borticus leaving and our discussion on that. If you're watching this after the fact, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I am interested to get your guys' thoughts of if number one, if there is any implications, and if so, what those could look like.